Hello there, and welcome back to How Did You Get Here? I'm your host, Katie Pellerin, Nova Scotia Works School Liaison. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you've listened to the first episode, you know this podcast is all about the stories behind people's careers. We often look at someone who's successful and think, they must have had a plan from the very beginning. But after working with hundreds of students, talking with employers, and hearing so many career journeys, I've learned something. That's almost never the case. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Careers are rarely a straight line. Most people don't have everything figured out in high school. They change directions, they discover new interests, they make mistakes, they take opportunities they've never expected, and somehow all of those twists and turns becomes part of their career story. So today, while I'm lining up my guests for next week, I thought we'd tackle something that comes up all the time in my work. The biggest career myths we still believe. These are myths I hear from students, parents, and sometimes even adults who have been working for years. It's time we talk these out and clear the air, so to speak. Let's jump right in. Myth number 1. You have to know what you want to do by the time you graduate high school. This is probably the biggest one. I hear students say things like, everyone else knows what they want to do except me, or what if I choose the wrong thing? And here's what I always tell them. You don't need to have your whole life mapped out at 17 or 18 years old. Think about it. At that age, you've only experienced a tiny fraction of the careers that exist. How can anyone confidently choose between hundreds or even thousands of careers they've never even heard of? The truth is, career planning isn't about finding the perfect answer. It's about making the best decision you can with the information you have, then learning, then adjusting. Most people change careers several times throughout their lives. Even if they stay in the same field, they often move into different roles that they never imagined. So the pressure you feel in high school to get it all figured out, it's definitely real, but it doesn't need to be stressful. Think of it this way. Choosing a career is a lot like using a GPS or Google Maps. You don't have to know every road you'll take for the next 40 years. You just need to choose a destination and start driving. If you hit traffic or miss a turn or decide you want to go somewhere else, the GPS doesn't tell you that you failed. It simply recalculates. Careers work the same way. The important thing isn't choosing the perfect route, it's starting the journey and adjusting as you go. Myth number 2. You should just follow your passion. This sounds like wonderful advice, but honestly, it's kind of annoying advice. Because here's the question. What if you don't know what your passion is? I meet students all the time who feel real stressed because they think everyone else has this one big passion and they're the only one who doesn't. What's the reality? Most people discover passions after they've spent time learning something and then getting better at it and realizing they enjoy doing it. Passion often follows competence. Sometimes it starts with curiosity. Maybe you're curious about healthcare or mechanics or marine biology. You don't have to love it immediately. You just have to be interested enough to explore it. Just one conversation or a volunteer experience or maybe a course in high school, maybe a summer job. Those experiences are often what spark passion, not the other way around. So instead of asking yourself, what's my passion? Maybe ask, what am I curious enough to try? That's a much easier question to answer. And another thing, what if your passion is something you don't actually want to do every single day? For example, I love to dance, but if someone told me that I had to dance 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I'm not sure I'd love dancing anymore. My feet hurt just thinking about it. Sometimes our passions are meant to be things that help us recharge, not the things that pay the bills. And that's perfectly okay too. Myth number 3. Changing careers means you failed. I wish more people knew this one isn't true. Changing careers doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you learned something and made a decision to change. Maybe you learned what kind of environment you really enjoy. Maybe you've discovered what your values are. Or maybe your priorities have just changed. One of the themes you'll probably notice throughout this podcast is that almost every guest has taken an unexpected turn somewhere along their way to their success. Those twists and turns make for the best stories because every job will teach you something. Could be leadership or patience, customer service skills, problem solving. But those skills don't just up and disappear when you leave a job, they come with you. So don't think of changing careers as failure and having to start over. Think of it as bringing everything you've learned just right on into the next chapter. With this kind of fear and pressure removed, just imagine how much more free you'll be to lean into an opportunity for change. Myth number 4. Successful people have everything figured out. This one makes me laugh because once you start talking to successful people, which we will in this podcast, you realize how wrong it is. These people have been rejected. They've changed their jobs. They've doubted themselves. They've had to go back to school. They've accepted opportunities they never planned for. And sometimes the biggest opportunities in someone's career happen completely by an accident. Maybe a volunteer opportunity became a career opportunity, or a side project turned into a business. Success usually looks messy when you're living in it. It only looks organized when you're looking back. That's one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast too. I wanted students, and really anyone that's listening, to hear the real stories behind successful careers. Because when we only see the ending, we miss everything that happened along the way. Myth number 5. The highest paying job is always the best choice. We're at the end of the list, folks. Yep, we're doing it. We're talking about money. Because when we're talking about careers, we can't pretend the pay doesn't matter. Because it does. We'll all have bills to pay, and we want to be able to support ourselves, have some financial freedom, and also build a life that feels secure. But one of the biggest career myths I see is the idea that the job with the biggest paycheck is automatically the best career choice. But it's not quite that simple. I've met people, and I'm sure you have too, who are very successful financially, but feel completely drained by their work. They've reached the salary they're aiming for, but they just don't enjoy the environment or the schedule or the expectations or even just the day-to-day responsibilities. But I've also met people who chose careers because they aligned with their interests, their values, and their lifestyle. They might not have chosen the highest paying option, but they found something that gave them a sense of purpose and allowed them to build the life they wanted. So the question isn't always, what job makes the most money? A better question might be, what kind of life do I want my career to help me create? Because two people can have the exact same job and view it completely differently. One person might love working long hours because they're passionate about growing a business. Another person might enjoy having evenings and weekends free to spend with their family. Neither choice is wrong. Success looks different for everyone. So a blanket statement like, the highest paying job is the best choice, is just plain wrong. When you're exploring careers, it's important to look beyond the pay. Ask questions like, what does a typical day in this job look like? What kind of environment do I want to work in? Do I enjoy working with people, information, tools, ideas? Does this career match the lifestyle I want? Will I have opportunities to grow and continue to learn? Does this work connect to something I value? Because at the end of the day, a job that pays well but makes you miserable may not feel very successful at all. And a job that provides enough income while allowing you to enjoy your life can be incredibly rewarding. Don't pursue a career only because of the number on your paycheck. Pursue a career that helps you build the life that you want, because your career is not just about what you do, it's about how you want to live. And how do you want to live? Well, that's a whole other topic for another day. So what do all these myths have in common? Well, they make us believe that careers are supposed to be predictable. There's one right path, one perfect decision, one perfect job, but that's simply not how careers work. Careers are built on experiences, through trying things, and sometimes through mistakes that we certainly didn't plan for. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode is this. Your career is not something you figure out. It's something you build. There's no single perfect decision that determines your entire future. Every experience and opportunity, and all the setbacks, add something to your story. The goal isn't to predict your future perfectly. The goal is to stay curious enough to keep learning and stay brave enough to try new things and open enough to recognize the opportunities when they knock on your door. Because the path that gets you where you're going may not be the path you imagined, but it might be the one that makes the most sense looking back. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with someone who's trying to figure out their own career path as well. And if there's a career you're curious about or someone you think that would make a great guest, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep asking questions, stay curious, because every career has a story, and we're going to keep discovering them together. Thanks for listening.